Today on Locked On Rockies, we talk about Jhoulys Chacín, a longtime member of the bullpen released by the Rockies. He was probably a lot better than you remember.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of September in the year 2022. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies conversation right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team each and every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And if your team, I should say, is the Colorado Rockies, well, you have found the right place, because that's what we do here. Like I said, I'm Paul Holden. I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire. I am someone who's been following this team my whole life, been covering this team just about every day right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast for you guys here for about 2 seasons now. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are going to talk about a longtime member of the bullpen just released by the Rockies. A little bit of look into the career of Jhoulys Chacín, and we're going to talk about how he was probably better than you can imagine. And over his long career, he was someone that played a part in some crucial role, some good, some bad times for the Rockies, and was really stellar, especially getting a bunch of starts for the Rockies, being a pretty good starter. He also had some time with other teams and made impacts there for other teams, getting a lot of starts for others as well, and was even the playoff ace for the Milwaukee Brewers for a little bit. But we're going to talk about Jhoulys Chacín, and we're also going to talk about the new guy, the guy that just got called up, and we're going to talk about who is replacing Chacín on the Rockies roster. But here's something that you might not know about Jhoulys Chacín. And before I do that, I got to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Did you know Jhoulys Chacín has a career WAR of 19? He's 85 and 91 with over 227 starts. He's pitched in nearly 1,500 innings. He has a whip of under 1.4 at 1.338. He was pitching in the league since 2009, a 13-year career. And while this year will be forgettable for Chacín, especially when you look at last year kind of being something a little bit of an improvement for Chacín there with some of his performance, and still getting some good work. Not a terrible run there with his second stint for the Rockies, but this season has just not been the case. And it was clear that Chacín's time was done. It was time to move on from Jhoulys Chacín, but he's someone out there that was with the Rockies from 2009 to 2014. He then goes from Arizona, Atlanta, the Angels, the Padres, Milwaukee again, and Boston before a trip to Atlanta, and then back to Colorado. He is someone that's been a journeyman and finishes what you would imagine is his career. I can't imagine anyone's really going to go out after Chacín, but a respectable 4.18 ERA. We're getting our stats from Baseball Reference, by the way, if you are curious. And like I said, 338 appearances, 227 of those being starts, kind of the ghoulish number of 666 when it comes to earned runs. But he was someone that really could get a lot of strikeouts. He was someone that had multiple 100 strikeout seasons for them, and in his really 2 good years with the Rockies in his first stint, and in his first 3 years with the club, or the first 4 years, 3 out of the first 4 years with the club, he had over 120 strikeouts, 126 strikeouts in 2013, 150 strikeouts in 2011, 138 strikeouts in 2010. He was definitely someone that could get the strikeout and was a force for some of those people out of the bullpen when he shifted to that. That's what he was able to do. When you look at last year, 47 strikeouts for Chacín in 64 innings. That's pretty good there. The walks, however, that's really been the big issue. Something that he's always done a lot of is walk batters, something you can't avoid too much. But again, not a pitcher that's going to sit there and knock your socks off in a lot of ways, but a pitcher that was, for better or worse, pretty darn good. When you are 19 for your career, if you are 19 wins above replacement, you are an effective pitcher. And when Chacín was on, he was and his strikeouts, that was great. This year, it just it just didn't have it in the tank anymore. I mean, just really not even someone that just wasn't really a viable option. 37 strikeouts to 21 walks this year. He's given up 7 home runs as well. Not a ton of home runs. He's usually limits the damage. In 2011, he kind of, when he pitched the most, never really had that as dominant of a year. 2015 or 2013, one of probably his best season, at least with the Rockies. A couple of good seasons with the Padres, and like we said, really good season for him in 2018 with the Brewers, someone that the Rockies did match up with in that playoff series as well. But boy, someone that just was. I love a good strikeout, and as Hippie Longshank says, I'm bummed to see Chacín go. We are as well, but it was time. It was time to see what was next. Chacín just really wasn't keeping the Rockies necessarily competitive you looked at what he was doing and what's the point of bringing Chacín out there to kind of walk or struggle when you wanted to see what you could get from Lawrence and thing. He was really someone that unfortunately couldn't capture the same energy. And I wanted to read a couple of tweets and stuff from some folks that cover the team and follow the team that I think are a good way of kind of encapsulating and diving deeper into Chacín's career here. And we'll start here with the Every Rockies Ever. We'll go just give you the statistical breakdown here from the Every Rockies Ever Twitter account. He had with the Rockies 13.9 BWR in 205 game starts. He pitched 783.2 innings for the Rockies. He had an ERA plus of 113, 42 and 52 win-loss record, a 4.05 ERA, 353 earned runs, 75 home runs, 598 strikeouts to 329 walks. So with the Rockies, he's had those seasons with the bad walks, but was still able to be someone that could come up and strike a lot of batters out for the club. 1.348 whip, 2 complete games, 1 shutout. He led NL rookies with 138 strikeouts in 2010 and second all-time in ERA for Rockies pitchers. So someone that clearly will be remembered for Rockies, someone I wouldn't be surprised if would be involved with the Rockies organization. The Rockies clearly brought him back for not only a second stint to see what he was still capable of doing. I mean, 2021 showed that he still had enough in the tank there. But it was great. I'm sure this won't be the last time. And going over here to Thomas Harding on Twitter, Rockies announced that they've released Jhoulys Chacín. Deserves more than just a line. A prominent starter years back, his 13.9 career WAR ranks 6th among pitchers in club history. He always enjoyed seeing him with his family around the park and in the clubhouse. And he really was, there was a great piece that Thomas wrote about him and bringing his son in there and being around the Rockies last year. But more from here, the Twitter sphere from Chacín. Here's stuff from Danielle Allentuck. Chacín, 34, first signed with the team back in 2004 and returned last year as a reliever. This year has been tough for Chacín, but what he's done in his 12-year career is impressive. He's still one of the best pitchers in Rockies history, and he ranks in the top 10 in franchise history in several categories. I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, it's pretty surprising when you look and see and hear that Jhoulys Chacín has the second best ERA in franchise history. That's not the name that you'd expect when some of the pitchers that the Rockies have had. Chacín is not the one that you'd expect to be there with the Rockies. And again, someone that I think is going to be a long appreciated by Rockies fans as well. Skylar Timmons over here. Jhoulys has a special place in the Rockies history books. Not as flashy as other names. He is among the most successful pitchers in team history. 2021 return to the team was a great story, and he was fantastic. 2022 just didn't go his way. It's how it goes. Baseball is a tough sport, but we at least got to see Chacín bounce back. We got to enjoy a really, really great pitcher there for the Rockies. And I love good strikeouts. I mean, there is just I love seeing strikeouts. And Chacín, when he was on with someone that could provide some strikeouts, it is a fun time. It was a fun time. And again, best of luck to Chacín going forward. We'll see what the Rockies are doing now as they make a call-up in place of Chacín's release from the Rockies. A tip of the cap to Chacín there. I'll even actually give it to you there. Let's dive into the call-up. Let's dive into the matchup tonight. Let's keep talking Rockies baseball. But before we do that, why don't you get in on all the betting action going on in the world of sports? You might be gearing up for Rockies Cubs tonight. You might also be getting up for all the NFL and college football action this weekend. Well, don't miss out from all the action at betonline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports information this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. Well, guess what? If you didn't get in on the action on the opening week games, well, you can go out and get in all of week 2. Kind of feels like it's still opening week. I'm going to say opening weeks because that's what it's still. The season's still very young for both pro and college, and you can get in on all the action at BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website, that's betonline.net, and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions at BetOnline, where the game starts. We are heading over here. The Rockies have called up Noah Davis. Davis has been a starter for the Hartford Yard Goats this season. Got a 5.5 ERA, 152 strikeouts, 260 walks, a 1.45 WHIP in 133 innings. Sheesh. 133 innings over 26 starts. Here from CBSSports.com, while his performance wasn't particularly dominant, he'll have a chance to make his major league debut over the final weeks of the regular season. Seems likely the right-hander will be available as a multi-inning option out of the Rockies bullpen to begin his big league career. This is good. I mean, even I don't even mind that you look at Noah Davis's line there. You look at the moves there, but at the same time, this is the right move for the Rockies. I know we had a fan or someone on Twitter say they want to watch all these Rockies. Calling up as many prospects as you can, getting them starts at the major league level, getting them up against the major league at-bats is great, especially for Rockies pitching, because the Rockies pitching prospects aren't as flashy as some of the names that the Rockies have in the position player side. There's a lot of names that we are excited about as Rockies fans, we've heard a lot of, but when it comes to pitching prospects, there's no one that has the same real name and carry as Eleris Montero, as Ezequiel Tovar, who all signs are pointing to. That's exciting for me. I'm glad that the Rockies are embracing this. This is the right way to handle this. And unfortunately, one of the things I was reading today, it comes, and it's going to be an interesting thing. It's some fan favorites. What are the Rockies going to do with Connor Joe? What are the Rockies going to do with Connor Hampson? They've been favoring Garrett Hampson for the last bit of the season, especially as Connor Joe has gone cold in the second half of the season. What are they going to do with all these young guys? They don't have to have all that figured out right now. I mean, everything can continue to get figured out and more navigated in playoffs. It's time to just see what we can see and get even just a little bit of taste from players like Davis and Tovar. And why not? Chacín wasn't getting the job done. There's no harm in not letting Noah Davis come up and get some real MLB experience. Let him get the first call up and go out there and go up against them, even with the line that's not impressive. I'd like to see some strikeouts here. Obviously, we want to see him if he can come up and demonstrate good command. That's what we're looking for here in these types of starts and appearances from Noah Davis. This is the right way to handle this part of the season for the Rockies. It doesn't help the Rockies in the long run to continue to trot out veterans and stuff out there that aren't going to give you a little bit more clear picture of the future. Of course, Ryan McMahon and Charlie Blackmon and CJ Cron and Brendan Rodgers, all of them should still start and get playing time and get their at-bats and everything as well. Absolutely. But at the same time, a lot of them, I hope, are embracing this moment to be leaders and mentors on this team, especially when call-ups are so few and far between now. It's not like it's the 40-man roster where there's a bunch of people on the roster anymore. With the call-ups still being very specific, this is an opportunity to make sure that the Rockies veterans can be taking a moment to help these players, to help them get better, to help them to get adequated and acquainted with being a Major League Baseball player. This is the right way to do it. The Rockies being so far out of contention, they got a long slog against LA. Let's see what the Rockies have. Bring them up. See and then that just gives you more information to take into spring training. That gives you more of an idea of what you're going to want to do next year when you are going to have to make roster decisions. When you are looking at it, how are you going to find a place for everybody in the outfield, especially with the return of Chris Bryant? And what are you going to do? Do you believe in a lot of arms that you have in the future? You don't have a lot of left-handed arms. You've brought some people up from the system a few times, different people from the system. How much do you believe in the bullpen future from your arms if you're not going to see them at the major league level? The Rockies have to create a sense of identity, and they carve that out by either committing to the players that they have and going younger and giving them opportunities and just working with the vets they have and not navigate and trying to build up the farm system in the future, or they need to buy in. They need to build a bullpen. They need to spend more money in the offseason. We're again at a situation where the Rockies' lack of identity makes it very hard to understand what it truly means for these prospects to get playing time. What does it mean for Noah Davis? What does it mean for all of these Rockies players that get playing time at the beginning or at the end of the year if the Rockies, go out and maybe spend a big splash on something else, or they don't get other playing time, or they're not on the spring training roster? There's not enough for us to know about what the Rockies' plan is and the identity of a team to kind of know what this is. We can at least sit here, though, and take solace in the fact that they are seeing what they have in the system right now. They're doing the call-ups. Players, the prospects are getting playing time, especially if Tovar is going to come up and get some playing time as well. For the Rockies to be getting playing time from both Montero, Tolia, and Tovar at the major league level in 2022, not really what we expected to see this year, but if you are in the situation the Rockies are in right now, it's absolutely the move to make. So Noah Davis called up by the Rockies from Hartford. He is expected to be out of the bullpen following the release of Jhoulys Chacín. Let's take a look at tonight's matchup here. Two teams that are pretty similarly matched, have had similar seasons, and it's kind of a lot of interesting things between the two of them. I think we talked a lot about this the first time that we had this series, but before we do it, and first pitch is actually here in just a few moments. So Marcus Strowman, Herman Marquez, it's going to be a great matchup. But first, this. Okay. Rockies taking on the Cubs here today. Herman Marquez and Marcus Strowman, two pitchers. I mean, wow, the numbers seem, the record, of course, Strowman a case here where the record doesn't always reflect how good Strowman's, at least statistical, is when you look at the baseline numbers for him there. 3-7 for Strowman this year, but the whip is at 1.20, an ERA of under 4, 3.9, 112 innings pitched. Give 94 strikeouts to 30 walks in that time, 13 home runs. And so Herman's pitched about 45 more innings, and that's obviously a couple more starts, a handful more starts and more appearances. But the big numbers here you see is that if you gave those starts to Strowman, he might look pretty similar to Herman this year. Those home runs, double digits at 13. You kind of look at and just kind of doing some quick math. It's nothing really too specific. Let's see. 8 more starts, basically, if you're going by win-loss total, what that would impact for Strowman. And I think that Herman would be looking in a better situation than Strowman is this year. But I'm sure two pitchers that are looking to bounce back after this year wash this one away and especially come into their next start with a good one and something that they want to go after, especially because both pitchers want to wash away their last start. Not an ideal one for either of them. Strowman's last start against San Francisco, 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, a home run, a walk, and 4 strikeouts, where Herman Marquez's last appearance against Arizona was won. The Rockies still won. They came back, but Herman gives up 9 earned runs, 2 home runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. So again, we want to see Herman with the control. We want to see Herman limit the walks. We want to see Herman Marquez make progress towards the end of this year, because he is easily going to be one of my biggest question marks, my biggest worries of the offseason, because Herman Marquez has to be better than this. Herman Marquez has to be someone that we can count on and rely on. He doesn't have to, maybe he can't always mimic what he did last year, but he needs to be much closer to 2021 Herman Marquez than 2022 Herman Marquez going forward. And I know that he can do it. He's one of my favorite pitchers to watch for the Rockies. But we'll see. The Cubs definitely are dealing with a decent amount of injuries as well. Rafael Ortega on the 60-day IL, Seiya Suzuki on day-to-day, Nico Horner with a day-to-day, Alec Mills on the 60-day IL, and Wilson Contreras also on the injury report for them as well. So lots of injuries for the Rockies. Let's see if they can take advantage of it. They are on the road. We'll see what happens. In these teams have tied the series so far this year at 2 apiece. This will be the one big deciding way on the decider of the series for the season. Should be a good game. 2 teams kind of in a similar situation. Cubs, Rockies. It's usually always fun. Of course, a lot of history there. I think a little small. It's not really, but I think the Cubs won't often forget that what Tony Walters and the Colorado Rockies did to them in the wild card game there, not too long ago, but feels like ages ago at this point. Folks, we're going to wrap things up. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for tuning in and joining us today, and for making us your first listen of the day. If you want more MLB talk, more MLB coverage, why don't you go check out the Locked On MLB podcast for your second listen? Or if you want to stay up to date with all things Colorado sports, you can do so with the Locked On Podcast Network, with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. You can follow us here at Locked On Rockies on Twitter at LO Rockies, and myself, Paul Holden, at Paul Holden 33. You can find the show on YouTube as well. Subscribe to it, be part of the live chat so you can get your questions answered live and know when we are recording this wonderful podcast. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the